Good day, folks. Back again with Bob BBD, third day of Afghanistan. And we're talking about the master stroke by China, Pakistan, and Russia. When we talk about master stroke, what's a master stroke? Like, what was the basic objective that was achieved by the master stroke? The only thing that can be said is the exit of the United States in a hurry, in a curry, from Afghanistan. And the scenes that you see at the airport, which are reminiscent of Saigon, as everybody's suggesting. A lot of exultation. But is that a masterstroke? Just one thing which the United States anyway had an objective to achieve, right? So you help the United States achieve an objective and you call that a masterstroke. Fantastic. But here's what you got to know about this. What C. Raja Mohan Rai. The Gulf in Afghanistan. The idea that great powers can shepherd regional actors towards predefined goals in Afghanistan is an illusion. There are too many independent actors in the region with high stakes in the country. So there are too many independent they will figure out ways and means to cope with the new Afghan dynamic. India's intensifying consultation with Iran is one example. Saudi Arabia and the UAE, whose interests are threatened by Taliban's religious extremism, are not going to sit back forever. Integration of the Gulf into India's regional security calculus is now likely to be a permanent feature. And as we look at that, what do we have here in the morning brief? Regional powers assess a new Afghanistan. Firstly, no immediate bonanza awaits Afghanistan's prospective partners. It remains one of the poorest countries in the world, with now enhanced reputation for humbling great powers. A country that relies on international aid for 80% of its budget is unlikely to have much trade with, and dreams of unlocking Afghanistan's rare earth deposits will depend heavily on stabilizing the war-torn nation. Russia shares China's concerns about instability, especially when it comes to the former Soviet states in Central Asia, just as China will not want the Taliban harboring ethnic Uyghur groups. Any support for Islamist movements in its backyard would be unacceptable for Moscow. Pakistan's leaders have not disguised their glee at the Afghan government's dissolution, as Prime Minister Imran Khan praised the Afghan people for breaking the shackles of slavery. Still, like in Iran, one immediate effect of Taliban's ascent will likely be a refugee exodus, with Pakistan expected to remain the #1 destination without money. Turkey waits. Turkey's initial plan to secure Kabul's airport following US withdrawal and at the same time repair its fractured relationship with Washington went up in the air as soon as President Ashraf Ghani did. So folks, lots of stuff in play. Nothing is really settled. So lots of chatter about the gain, right, of Pakistan. But like I said, I think without money, without recognition of the Taliban by the West, I think Pakistan is climbing a steep mountain, right? Afghan collapse, US rout, Pakistan gain. I don't like the word US rout, but anyway. Uncertainty and chaos reign supreme in Afghanistan, with people trying to flee. The China-Pakistan-Taliban nexus is a concern for India. Sure it is. India has to guard against both Afghanistan being turned into a fertile recruiting ground for non-state actors to be deployed in India, and any further coarsening of domestic politics based on attitudes towards the Taliban. Now this is the important part for India. The coarsening, and you can already see that in Modi's recent statement about Somnath Temple and what you're seeing in UP, right, where the ATS has now been set up near Deoband because of Taliban. The fall of Afghanistan. Taliban is back, the US has lost, the ISI has won, and India stares at a crisis. I would say over-exaggerated. So stuff on the street. Popular Afghan women news anchors stopped from working. You'll see a lot more of that. Reports of reprisals, targeted killings by Taliban fuel Afghanistan fears. 9 Hazras executed, kin of journalist slay. Now Hazras means Shias, means Iran is not going to be very happy with it, right? Then chaos grows, evacuation speed up. Foreign powers keep a close watch on Afghanistan as they speed up evacuations amid rising instability across the country. What is important to note, that there is pockets of resistance developing, right? Son of, like this one, son of slain Afghan hero vows resistance. This is son of Ahmad Massoud. Then acting President Saleh likely to become biggest threat for Taliban, and this guy is a great friend of India, folks. Just remember that. So everything is not really hunky-dory for Pakistan, like I said. And I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit more about it. Because it just isn't, right? So they can keep exulting. Imran obviously is smoking some stuff that nobody else has. But hey, more later. So folks, Pakistan is flying on a wing and a prayer, right? Imran Khan has still not been contacted by Joe Biden because internally I think he realizes that the mess up that's been happening all these years is Pakistan, right? What do we have here? Broken chains of slavery. Imran endorses Taliban takeover of Afghanistan. I think he's done it. I think he's cocked the champagne far too soon. Imran Khan's quest for Joe Biden's attention. He says, Biden has been in the White House for more than 6 months, but has not yet called the PM of a country that has been a frontline state in America's longest war in Afghanistan, Pakistan. Okay. Now more worried than ever by the growing estrangement from the US, which has been an abusive but generous ally. The Pakistan landed an invitation after some intense lobbying, but nothing really went down. Possibly tired of waiting for his phone to ring, Khan served a reminder 2 weeks ago with a piece in the Post and an interview with the New York Times. That was kind of interesting if you remember, right? And you have this. Pak will it have it both ways again, says Seema Surohi. I doubt it very much, but they're trying really hard. ISI Chief Hamid Gul, the new venture is called How to Muddy US Strategic Aims in Asia and Survive, especially with India. It says they have been watching Imran Khan, his determined defense of all things Chinese, including concentration camps and op-eds in Global Times. The lengths he goes to are unseemly, but China demands total surrender. No wonder the trust between Washington and Islamabad is so low, Joe Biden and Khan haven't exchanged phone calls. Britain is the go-between. Yeah. So Britain always, you got to worry about them. But Biden can't be happy about Khan's emphatic China embrace and an equally emphatic refusal to allow the US to use his military bases. But it's US confusion on Pakistan that gives Islamabad room to play. Pakistan, American... So basically, this room needs to be closed, right? Again, here, Imran hopes for civilized ties with US like it has with India, right? And very, like a spoiled child, US has decided that India is a strategic ally, says Imran. Pak useful only in context of settling Afghanistan mess, which he is hugely a part of. Afghan government offers Taliban power sharing plan. I don't know. Some Afghans blame Pakistan for Taliban gains, and I think that is quite true. Not so easy for Pakistan. Taliban's relationship with Islamabad comes with significant risks for the later. But with money for Afghanistan drying up with the US exit, Pakistan simply isn't in a position to financially prop up the new regime. This opens up the possibility of other countries like India making deals with the new dispensation in Kabul. Plus, given Afghanistan's diverse ethnic matrix, a non-Pushtun insurgency may materialize. Already is, should Taliban seek to return to its old ways and suppress minority. Taken together, Pakistan's influence over shaping the future of Afghanistan shouldn't be overestimated. Regional countries like India have many cards to play here. Now, what do we have here? To save Afghanistan, act against Pakistan. Everybody's figured that out. From former and current military leaders and experts on the region and officials point to one factor in all that could make a difference. If tackled in time. Pakistan. The key to Taliban surviving 20 years after its ouster and recent resurgence has been safe havens across the border in Pakistan. There was a military solution to the Afghan problem, but the chase always ended in the border with Pakistan. Pakistan's role goes beyond giving sanctuary to the Taliban. When asked if the Taliban could have managed their recent military success without Pakistan help, at a news conference, John Gilby, the Pentagon chief spokesman, couldn't really say anything. There may still be time, therefore, for one last, although desperate measure. Threaten Pakistan with punishment, any punishment to force it to cut ties with the Taliban. So Pakistan and China are basically both overplayed their hand. China thinks it can ride on the coattails of Pakistan to kind of bridge the gap with Taliban. But it ain't gonna happen. We'll see what's happening, right? Pak alleges India linked to bomb blast outside Hafiz Saeed's house. Pakistan blames RAW for Hafiz house blast. Pak blames hostile foreign intel agencies for blast outside Hafiz Saeed's house. Afghan Taliban militants can reside in Pakistan, says minister. Then it gets to OIC. OIC seeks Indo-Pak dialogue, wants to send team to Kashmir. That's kind of funny. But this is where the Pakistani problem is. Pakistan fails FATF test to stay on terror watchdog's grey list. Pak fails to get out of FATF's grey list. So this is a problem. No money, no money. But Pakistan, based on what happened with Hafiz Saeed and what happened to the Chinese bomb blast in Gilgit-Baltistan, they say Pakistan seeks FATF action against India for alleged terror financing. Get that one, right? But in all this tutu-mama game, could ceasefire be a casualty after Pakistan's accusations against India? We don't know. However, a Taliban takeover will hurt Pakistan. This is by Jayant Prasad. He said, the people of Afghanistan are unlikely to allow a peace dictated by the Taliban, which is seen as a proxy for Pakistan. Pakistan's ISI believes it can continue to guide the Haqqani network and other sundry terrorist groups it supports even after the Taliban gains power. This seems improbable. When the Taliban was in power earlier, Pakistan's ambassador Aziz Ahmad Khan was unable to present his credentials to the Afghan head of state, Mullah Omar. When approached on the issue, Mullah Omar said Pakistan and Afghanistan had fraternal relations which precluded the formality of state-to-state relations. Go figure that out. Another time, Pakistan's Home Minister tried to get Mullah Omar to settle. This is a big one. Durand Line, once for all, he got scolded for his labors. How dare he raise the subject of frontiers between two brothers? Okay, that's what's going to keep happening because of the Pashtuns on both sides. Pakistan's state structure, underpinned by its army, will come under strain if Afghanistan is Talibanized. There is no love lost between the Taliban leadership and the Pakistani army because of the coercion it has been subject to since the time it took refuge in Pakistan. And also, Badr has been in ISI prison for almost 8 years. It is terrorist groups such as the TTP, East Turkmenistan Islamic Movement and Lashkar-e-Taiba which will gain strategic space in Afghanistan and not Pakistan, folks. So China is not going to have that easy. As you've already seen, it's made its independent moves to meet with a host Badr and Bangui in Beijing. But here's the thing that's also happening, right? In a first, Chinese firms flag risks to CPEC projects in Pakistan, raise concerns over anti-China sentiments and security situation that's getting really worse. And then this is a new one. Can the Taliban on them? This is Saibal Das Gupta writing from Beijing. He says, 3 days after the Taliban took over the presidential palace in Kabul, China is still cagey about publicly endorsing it, never mind recognizing it. Then he says, but the Taliban is very different from Pakistan rulers. It is unlikely to consult with Beijing on its relationship with other countries. Though many think India has burnt its bridges by opposing the Taliban at one stage and not building a direct connect with the brass, there is still enough opportunity for Indian officials to build some influence. This time around, Taliban does not want to be too dependent on one country, China included. China is worried on several counts. Friendship with the Taliban is difficult to sell to its public. There is already a lot of unhappiness over Beijing's commitment to Pakistan despite continued attacks on Chinese citizens, including blasts that killed 9 Chinese. At another level, Beijing finds it difficult to trust Taliban. Recent assurances that it will not allow its soil to be used for terror attacks across the border into China's Xinjiang province, and they better be ready for this, right? China is also worried about the role that Pakistan and its military intelligence wing would play in the new power structure. From Beijing's point of view, Pakistan has served its purpose of connecting it to Taliban, and it should now allow China to play a bigger role in Kabul instead of becoming a hindrance. This is easier said than done. Pakistani military brass and Taliban commanders are connected to each other in personal levels, not just as functionaries of governments and movements. Pakistan will try its best to ensure the Chinese officials remain dependent on it for connection with the Taliban. China will work in the opposite direction. If China and Russia openly recognize the Taliban government, it can cause a split in the UNSC. They don't want that. US intelligence will have good connection inside the Taliban cadre and enough resources to feed them. It is going to play an important role in the new power game in Kabul, whether Beijing likes it or not. This is why Chinese have chosen to wait and watch an evolving situation instead of rushing to endorse and possibly recognize the next power structure in Afghanistan. Then what do we have? China, role seen in India not being invited to Afghan meet. He says Russia had earlier sought India's participation in the meet on the grounds that New Delhi had wide-ranging stakes in Afghanistan, but then that didn't happen. You have this militant step-up attacks against Pakistan, China interests amid Afghan chaos. Chinese nationals will get foolproof security, says Pakistan, but can't secure its own soldiers. 5 Pakistan soldiers killed in attack in Balochistan. Gloves are off again. Pakistan accuses India of carrying out blast near LET chief's home. Pakistan blames India, Afghanistan for July bus attack that killed Chinese engineers. Pakistan blames Afghanistan, India intel for suicide blast against Chinese. Pressure from West won't alter ties with China, says Pakistan PM, and that's my friend, that guy won't talk to you, right? China slams America for hasty decision on troops, and that shows the nervousness. Everybody who thinks that China is a masterstroke is not. And then you read this, right? Taliban eyes China's role in rebuilding efforts, and then it says 1/3 of Afghans are at risk of acute hunger, folks. If that happens, China's mercantilism is not going to come to the help. Only the West can, folks, and with all the money locked up, Pakistan or China are flying a kite which is going to get snapped at any time, folks. Jai Hind.